and thereby doom all other remnants of the last age that relied upon it. Then he would deal with the humans. Since a journey she had made to Underearth to learn more about the plots of the Troll King, Little Fur often dreamed of the dark, chaotic city. In these dreams, she sometimes saw a she-troll limping along the black, cracked streets, nursing her swollen belly. It could be no more than a dream, born of her longing to know what had become of her mother, for Little Fur had been left as a baby in the roots of the eldest of the old ones. Yet sometimes the visions were so strong that she wondered if they were not her mother's memories that had seeped into her. More often, though, Little Fur dreamed of the Troll King, huge and pale and ferocious, gnashing his teeth and clenching his fists as he gazed up towards the sunlit surface of the world, a green stone like hers suspended on a thong about his neck. But trolls were the last thing on Little Fur's mind as she and the white vixen Nobody made their way through the human city early one spring night. The air was sweet with new blossom, and she was pleased to see how many of the seeds she had planted in tiny cracks and crannies had quickened. Surely even humans must begin to feel the flow of earth magic, strengthened as it was by all the new growth. Certainly all of the animals in the wilderness were giddy with joy, and the birds seemed even more scatter-minded than usual. Only the fox, Sorrow, was unmoved. Little Fur glanced at the vixen padding along beside her. Nobody had come to the wilderness in the last days of winter, seeking Sorrow, whom she was destined to love. But he had rejected her, saying that he was an unnatural fox, with no true wildness in him, having been raised and used by humans. He would never take a mate nor sire any kits. He did not care that Nobody's white pelt and lavender eyes had made even her own father call her unnatural. She had been born wild, and he had been born a captive. Nobody had not yet spoken of returning to the ice mountains where she had been born, but the lovely scent of hope in her was beginning to fade, and Little Fur was sad to think of the two foxes destined to love one another but living apart. If only she could talk to Sorrow about Nobody, but she did not know how to broach his ferocious solitude. Little Fur sighed and looked up, her eyes searching the bits of sky between the buildings for the ragged black shape that was Crow. He was spying out the way ahead as usual, scanning the streets for the furtive movements of Greeps, for they preferred the dark hours of the night, and the warmth of spring always roused them out of the fusty nooks where they had shivered through the winter. A small claw plucked at her tunic, and Little Fur looked down to find Lim regarding her with huge, anxious eyes. "But Teta will be well now." Lemmings called all of the older females in their clan Teta or Auntie, but Little Fur knew that Lim meant the prime Teta of his clan, whom she had just finished tending. Little Fur had met her for the first time just after returning from the expedition to Underearth. The Teta was a very grand personage, despite her diminutive form, and very dignified and stern with it. But once she had heard the story of the expedition, she had pronounced Little Fur and her companions of that journey honorary lemmings, much to Little Fur's secret amusement and Crow's derision. "The Teta is not truly ill," Little Fur explained gently. "It is only that she is having bad dreams." "Perhaps the Set Owl will tell the Strick the meaning of the Teta's dreams," Lem said, with the grave, direct courtesy of his kind. Little Fur had advised the Teta to seek the wisdom of the Set Owl, though it was said the aged seer spent most of her time in a trance these days, leaving her attendant, the monkey Indic, to try to explain any words she spoke. It was odd that she had not given way to her small apprentice, Jem, for the Set Owl was ancient and had often spoken with longing of the moment when the still magic would release her.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.